Notice that every single piece of advice is just cut back. The advice for the housing crisis, just get roommates. The advice for grocery costs, just cook at home. On a shorter commute, just move closer to work. If you're burnt out, just find balance. If you're in debt, just cut your spending. What people don't seem to understand is these aren't solutions. It's quite literally just advice on how to be poor and not complain.
American people are not doing well. A CBS News poll asked the question, is your income keeping up with inflation? 77% said no, it isn't. 1 in 8 credit card holders are behind on payments. Auto loan delinquencies are reaching record highs not seen in over 30 years. Coming from a working class background, my mom worked 4 jobs a week. We never had health insurance. My dad worked 2 jobs a week to make ends meet. I know the cars are something that is just crucial to get to work, to provide for your family. My Republican colleagues don't want to look at the entirety of people's experiences. It is a signal that the economy is not doing well.
Apartment landlords are going bankrupt at their highest rate since 2009, 2010. Fannie Mae is reporting that multifamily mortgages are at their highest rate of delinquency and foreclosure since the 20-aughts. And this is what happens when you price everybody out of the market. It's great to think your apartment's worth $2,500, but when you don't have anybody to rent it to. And rents have fallen all across the country in Nashville and in Florida, to where some of these big new apartments that they have just built are now having to offer 3 months free rent just to get anybody to come. And concessions that companies will throw into leases are at an all-time high, not seen since the 20-aughts. And this is going to be phenomenal news for the housing markets, but I still think this is going to be too little too late. Everything else is still so expensive in these cities and towns that they're just not going to be able to afford to live there. But 90 days free rent doesn't sound like the worst.
There's a strange feeling a lot of people have right now where they look around and wonder how everything got so expensive. Because even the most normal parts of life somehow feel like they come with a ridiculous price tag now. From basic meals costing what feels like a full grocery trip, to people questioning how everyone seems to have expensive cars and lifestyles. There's a growing frustration around trying to understand how everyone's actually keeping up. The bigger conversation isn't just about higher prices, but about how many people are starting to feel like the path to financial stability they were promised doesn't match the reality they're experiencing.
Capitalism is literally putting a chip on our shoulders. Like a literal chip on our shoulders for a lot of people. Recently, I decided I wanted to experience more human interaction. What a privilege. What a privilege to say, I just want to pick up a job. What a privilege to be able to get a job in an economy like this. Okay, I am grateful. But one thing I have noticed is that these jobs will literally have you working 5 to 7 hours, 5 to 12 hours, 8 to 10 hour shifts. And you barely be making ends meet. I'm talking to this girl as I started this new job. And I'm like, do you feel like this job is worth it? She's like, yeah, I'm able to pay my rent, pay my car note, all the good stuff. You know, that's great. I said, okay, how often do you work? She says she works every single day that they're open. I'm not knocking her hustle, because granted, that lady be getting to it. But the idea that I have to work possibly 25 out of 30 days. 25 out of 30 days. Possibly some of those are double shifts. To make sure that I can make ends meet. I can possibly working a 5-hour day, a 6-hour day, and not be making $100 Yo, don't even make me get into tip-based jobs. This shit is ridiculous. This shit is real life ridiculous.
I was just looking at the prices of cars because I was like, okay, I need a new car because my car is just like down in the gutter. And how is everybody affording cars, or is everybody just in debt? Because I remember I got my car off Facebook Marketplace for like $3,000, no car note, and I'm really happy about it. But it's starting to get to a point where I feel like I'm gonna need a new car, and I didn't want to have to go back to Facebook Marketplace, but it looks like that's gonna be my only option. Because what do you mean almost every car now is gonna be a $500 monthly payment for the next 5 years?
For a lot of people, the biggest shock isn't just buying something expensive, it's realizing how expensive normal things have become. A quick meal, a grocery run, or grabbing something while traveling used to feel like a small decision. But now, people are constantly doing the math in their heads before spending money. Seeing something like 2 burgers costing around $65 at an airport feels ridiculous because it represents a bigger problem. The things that people consider basic conveniences are starting to feel like occasional treats. Even grocery shopping has started to feel different. A trip to a place like Costco is supposed to be about saving money by buying in bulk, but many people leave surprised at how quickly the total adds up. And that feeling is what frustrates people the most. It's not always about wanting luxury or trying to spend beyond their means. It's about the realization that even being responsible with money doesn't always make expenses feel reasonable anymore. A lot of people grew up hearing that the key to being financially smart was avoiding unnecessary spending, but what happens when the things you actually need are already expensive? When food, transportation, and everyday purchases take up most of someone's income, there's less room for anything else. Less room to save, less room to enjoy life, and less room to feel like you're actually moving forward. That's why these price increases hit differently. It's not just about paying more for something, it's about watching the definition of normal slowly change. Things that used to be casual decisions now require planning, and that constant feeling of having to think twice before spending is something a lot of people are starting to recognize.
Here's another hot take that I think a lot of the younger generation will agree with me on, but that maybe a lot of the older generation won't. And that's that most young people aren't against having jobs. Most teenagers aren't against having jobs or making money or whatever, but it's not worth going to work for the wages a lot of places are paying. You're starting out right now, and the starting wage is, anywhere from $8 to $12 an hour at a lot of places with no experience. And you show up and go to work, say you get $10 an hour, and you work 30 hours a week after school, which would be a lot. I mean, that's you're on work every afternoon and probably your Saturday too to get 30 hours. And then that's only $300 pre-taxes. And then after you're getting taxed on it, you now made $260. And then you got to put gas in your car, truck, wherever you drive to go back and forth to work. And now you've made $150 maybe after that, and you still have all your other expenses for the week, whether you want to be able to go eat, if you pay your insurance on your vehicle, or if you have a car payment, any of this. And so by the time it's all said and done, you went and worked 30 hours a week, brought nothing home extra really. You don't have money to go do anything on the weekend. You don't have money to go to concerts or invest in something or really save or anything. And so I think that the narrative that young people don't want to go to work isn't necessarily true, but they just want to go to work for a wage that's actually worth going to work for. I would argue really that anything under $15 an hour in today's economy, you're not making enough money to justify getting up and going to do. And so I would urge every young person to either go find something to get experience in that's then going to make you more money later on, or go learn a trade, get a certification in something, go to school for something, or work for yourself. I'll work for myself. It's great. But going to work for somebody else for $12 to $15 an hour, maybe less, you're never going to have enough money to amount to anything or to be able to save up or buy anything that you want to buy or go do anything. If you saved $50 a week working for $10 an hour, it would take you a whole year to save $2,500.
Guys, we just checked out at Costco, and this is like the most that we've ever spent. And I have no idea what we bought that was extra. Christopher, what is it?
I think it's just the meat.
Spent $1,100 and change.
No, he doesn't do that.
Wild. Christopher, what the hell did we buy? $1,100. It's insane. Like, we usually spend around like $750, and even that's a lot. But $1,100. I don't think we're ever gonna come back here again. I mean, yeah, we did get a lot of stuff, but guys, $1,100.
So is it safe to say that eating at a fast food restaurant at an airport in the United States is no longer affordable? And why do I say that? Because one man who stopped in at Burger King in the airport wanted to grab a couple of burgers. And boy, was he in for a surprise when he saw how much the combo meals were. Have a look at this video for yourself.
So I'm catching a red eye. And can you believe it? This is a rich nigga Burger King? Look at these prices, bro. Look at these prices, nigga. What are you
Wow,
talking
look
about? What's
at
going
that.
on at LAX? So here's the actual total, nigga. $65.
Just take a look at the combo prices at LAX's Burger King location. $22.49 for a Whopper. A double Whopper, $26. Whopper Jr., $18. And a Royal Crispy Chicken, $23. And take a look at the receipt right there. $65.81 for 2 combo meals at LAX. So once again here, the bottom line is, you plan on traveling anywhere, especially out of a US airport. Eat before you go. Pick up a snack outside or bring something with you from home. Unless you plan on spending close to $100 for 2 combo meals at a Burger King.
For years, one of the most common pieces of money advice has been simple. Spend less, save more, and stop wasting money on small things. But a lot of people are starting to question whether that advice actually matches the problems they're facing. Telling someone to skip a coffee or stop buying small things might help a little bit, but it doesn't solve the bigger issue when the expensive parts of life are the things people can't easily avoid. Car payments, groceries, insurance, and basic bills take up a huge part of people's income before they even get a chance to think about saving. That's why the advice just budget better can feel frustrating to people who are already trying to be responsible. Someone can cook at home, avoid unnecessary purchases, and still feel like they're barely getting ahead because the numbers simply aren't working in their favor. The conversation around minimum wage shows this problem clearly. For many people, the issue isn't that they don't want to work, it's that working a regular job doesn't always provide the same sense of independence it once did. A job used to be seen as a first step towards moving out, paying your own bills, and building a future. Now, many younger people are watching adults work full-time while still struggling with expenses that keep increasing. And that creates a confusing reality for younger generations watching all this happen. They're being told to follow the same steps previous generations followed, but they're also seeing that those steps don't always lead to the same results. The frustration comes from feeling that the conversation around money is focused on individual choices while ignoring the bigger changes happening around people. Being smarter with money still matters. The hardest part is that there isn't always an obvious mistake to point to. Sometimes people aren't struggling because they made one bad decision. They're struggling because the amount of effort required to afford a normal life has changed. One of the strangest parts about money today is how difficult it can be to tell who's actually doing well financially. From the outside, it can feel like everyone has a nice car, new clothes, expensive vacations, and the ability to constantly spend money. But behind that image, the reality can be completely different. A big reason people feel confused is because modern spending has become easier to hide. Someone driving a brand new car might look successful, but that doesn't show the monthly payment, the interest, or how much their income is going towards keeping that lifestyle. Cars are a perfect example because they've become one of the biggest symbols of looking like you're doing well. People see newer vehicles everywhere and naturally wonder how everyone can afford them, especially when so many people always say they're struggling. The truth is that owning something and comfortably affording something are two completely different things. A lot of people are pressured to keep up with this lifestyle they see around them. When everyone appears to be upgrading, spending, and moving forward, it can create this feeling that you're falling behind, which means something's wrong with you. But sometimes people aren't actually ahead. They're just better at showing the parts of their lives that others want to see. That pressure can be especially confusing for younger people because they're entering adulthood watching two completely different messages at the same time. They see people living expensive lifestyles everywhere, but they also hear constant conversations about debt, financial stress, and how difficult it is to afford basic things. It creates a situation where money isn't just about what you have anymore, it's also about how things look from the outside. And that can make it harder for people to understand their own financial situation because they're comparing themselves to an image instead of reality. A lot of people aren't necessarily trying to become rich overnight, they're just trying to reach a point where they don't feel guilty about every unexpected expense life could throw at them. That's why frustration about money has become so common. People aren't only asking why things cost more, they're asking why the idea of a stable, normal life feels so much harder to reach than it used to.